What's up, guys, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I have a bit of a spread before us on the couch, and the reason for this is because I am kind of covering a viewer-suggested topic here. So someone on my last video commented if they asked if I would talk about essentially whether or not people need expensive knives, right? And I thought it would be perfect for this video to show you a brand new knife that was just added to my collection. This is the ELB Proflipper V1. So this is a very, very nice bougie knife for sure. This is an expensive knife, and it's very, very pretty and very, very cool. And so I thought today's topic of talking about, not only whether people need expensive knives, but why you would even get an expensive, boutique knife, and, why that might be important to somebody. So, to break it down, I guess the first thing to do is to answer the question, do people need expensive knives? And the answer is absolutely no. Like, that is just gonna be the most basic thing in the world. You can have all of these really cool, really expensive knives, but you definitely do not need them. Especially nowadays in the Balisong market and just the community that exists for Balisongs in general. Knives like this, like the Krakaraken, honestly have brought such incredible and good flipping to the masses that there's not much in terms of better flipping offered by any boutique knives, right? So let's look at it like this, right? You have things like I have my Alien and my Balisong and this ELB Proflipper, and all of them are very, very good. Right? I would consider each one a very good flipper in their own merit. However, I wouldn't consider any of these three, which are all very expensive, conventionally good flippers. I would say they're very unique, and they each offer a very unique experience. And, of course, they flip differently, and I would say they all flip well. But if I was looking for something that I could just pick up and say this is probably the best flipping experience you can get for the money, that would have to be the Krakaraken. And the reason behind this is that the Krakaraken really ticked all of the boxes first, and it did it for a price point that was really, really good, right? For $250, you get a channel-style Balisong with bushings that are tuned well, and the balance and design of the entire thing works for essentially any combination of tricks you could imagine. So the design, the grip, the placement of everything, the balance, all of the prototyping, everything that went into this has basically created something that I would consider to be a generally perfect flipper. Like, for $250, you can get what I would consider probably the top of the flipping game in terms of what I would call a conventionally good flipper. Right? Something that anybody into Balisongs could pick this up and be like, okay, yeah, that's pretty good, right? Whereas, everything else has sort of preferences to it. Like, for instance, with the Balisong Z, I really, really like the Balisong Z, but it's on bearings, and it's very round in the handles. But for some people, that's great. For other people, not so much. With the Krakaraken, it's rounded and square at the same time. It's got bushings, which basically everybody likes. And so in general, it's a lot less out there, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, it's certainly unique. I mean, it was literally the first knife to be this way with aluminum channel handles and press fit Zen pins, but at the same time, in terms of flipping experience, it's just generally good. Like, it's just good in a general sense, not in a special sense. And so, when it comes to flipping, and whether or not it's worth it to buy expensive knives for their flipping performance, and if they flip better than cheaper knives, the answer to that is just a plain fat no. These knives do not flip better than these knives. That I would argue that every single day of the week. And it's not what I mean by that isn't that they're not good flippers or that these are incredible flippers and these suck. What I mean by that is that when I think of something that anybody could pick up and be like, that is a good flipper, this is what I think of. Whereas these things are unique. They're boutique. They have an experience that you get with them. You know, each one of them has a very different feel in the hand and a very different feel while flipping. And so they offer something very unique to you as you flip them. And each one of them is handmade as well. So because of that, there will be small differences in each one. Stitch specifically told me that he makes every single one of his knives unique on purpose. Every single one flips different than every other one, and that's entirely by design. So when it comes to boutique knives, you're looking for a boutique experience, and that's one of the reasons that you might end up spending the money here. But I want to be very clear, paying more does not mean you are getting a greater flipping experience, because that's not where the value lies here, right? You don't get, you know, a multiple times better flipping experience flipping a Proflipper versus a Krakaraken. The Balisong industry has come such a long way that now basically any Balisong at a certain price point from a, you know, reputable company is going to probably be good just by itself. Like, starting out, it's probably going to be good. So as you move up to boutique stuff, the reason for buying it doesn't really have a lot to do with its actual flipping capability or flipping performance. Okay, so then what about build quality? Well, I think that's another issue, because, like, at the end of the day, the build quality of these versus the build quality of these isn't really that different. Like, sure, these are made of aluminum, but my Atropos Curat is made of channeled titanium, so, you know, and it is priced well below any of these three, and it's on a very similar level to these. I think it's even cheaper than the Krakaraken, you know, depending on where you get it and how. So does that mean that, like, these are somehow built out of unobtainium and are, like, way better than, you know, the Atropos Curat or the Squid Krakaraken in terms of their build quality? And the answer, once again, is a resounding no. They aren't built any better. Sure, they're made by hand and they're made with love and care by people, and maybe they are made with superior hardware sometimes. But in general, the build quality at the end of the day, in terms of having something that you can take with you every single day and that it will stand up to the amount of abuse that you put it through, you know, in terms of utilizing it as a everyday carry and utilizing it as a flipper, all of these are going to perform exactly the same. They're all good enough build quality that you could carry this around with you all the time and never have a problem and never have it really break down on you, and that is true across all of these price points. So build also isn't something that, you know, by paying a lot of extra money, you're still not really getting an improvement there. Okay, so why then? Why would you pay for something like this when you could have something like this? And the answer is entirely personal. It is totally up to you. You can have something like this if you want it. If these things are valuable to you because of maybe their design, or maybe because of who built it, or maybe because of how it was built. It was built by one person. It was built in this specific way. It has this specific design thing that I really like. Like, for instance, with my Balisong. I really love that this Balisong was built by Eldon Talley. You know, Eldon Talley is a friend of mine and a really, really cool person, and so I love owning a piece of art that he made. Similarly, I also love the design. The design of it with these handles is extremely unique, and of course the blade having this beautiful Damascus to it is just gorgeous, and so is something that I do genuinely treasure. Similarly, the Stitch Steel Alien was built by my friend Stitch, and this was built as a custom order for me. I asked for this specific look where it's the black and silver and you have this really nice wire, you know, sort of brush texture on the actual blade itself. And, you know, this is just very boutique and something that I ordered specifically from one person. And then with the ELB, right, this is something that is something I've wanted for a long time. When I was visiting Squid Industries, which, by the way, I'm working on that video, the first video of that series right now. I'm editing it. When I was visiting them, I got to see Lucas's personal collection, and he had a Proflipper, and I was like, oh man, I really actually liked flipping it. I was like, damn, this thing is a lot of fun to flip. And I've always kind of wanted one because of the look. They look really cool, and they are a very unique design. And so, eventually, I found this one for sale from Ben Parley, and I reached out to Ben and was like, hey, I would like to purchase that from you. And he sold it to me, and that went really well. But these all sort of have a personal meaning to me, and there's a reason that they are in my collection. And that's a similar story here. Like the Balisong Z I got specifically because of how much I loved the Balisong. And I got this orange Krakaraken for obvious reasons. So like, I'm a pretty easy individual to market to, if I'm being totally honest. But at the same time, all of my Balisongs do have a personal connection to me. It just depends on you as an individual. How much money are you actually willing to potentially spend to get something that you desire, right? Because at the end of the day, just because somebody has this crazy collection of grails and high-level knives doesn't mean that they are having a better time flipping their Balisongs than you if you have a smaller collection of smaller knives or just one singular knife, right? At the end of the day, Balisongs have kind of come to a point where, in general, most of them are good. Like, that's just a fact at the end of the day. And so I think it's important to kind of consider here, well, yeah, I have these very cool things, and I'm very privileged to have these things, and I'm very thankful that I was able to buy these. But at the same time, I flip these more, all things considered. Like, at the end of the day, these are the two that I probably have in my pocket most of the time as I'm walking around. And I still do flip these, and I still do carry my expensive knives because I don't really practice safe queening, though, I'm not against anybody who does. I just think that they should be flipped and used because that's what they were built for. And so I guess to say at the end of the day is that, like, really expensive knives like this, they aren't worth it, right? Now, that's not to say that they aren't worth it in terms of the price. They just aren't worth it to most people. The price reflects the amount of effort and love that went into each one of these knives, right? So the price is absolutely fair, and they are definitely worth the price. But it's whether or not they are worth it to you as an individual that actually matters at the end of the day. And if you look at something and you think, oh, I'm missing out because that probably flips way better than anything I have, that's probably not true. But if you're like, I'm missing out because I really, really love the look of that thing and I really, really would love to have that in my collection, that I totally understand, because that's exactly how I felt about all of these. And that's exactly why I have them and why I own them now and why I feel fulfilled about that, I guess. So yeah, if somebody tells you that, oh yeah, I bought this expensive knife because it flips better, or oh, I bought this expensive knife because it's built better. I mean, it's built by hand in a boutique way, one of one, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was done better. It was just done differently. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the subject. In general, I'm gonna keep collecting, my expensive knives and my cheaper knives because I really enjoy both. At the end of the day, I just really enjoy Balisongs in general. I find the hobby to be a really, really cool and fulfilling thing, and I love being a part of it. That's why I've been a part of it for such a long time, and why I plan to continue that exact thing. Ironically, actually, the first case I ever bought, because I started my collection a long time ago, and it was with 51 clones, and then eventually I got some real knives, and it moved from there. Originally, I bought myself a small yellow Pelican case that you've definitely seen before, and it had slots for 6 knives, so like the 6 I have before me. And I thought to myself, I was like, I am only going to allow myself to have these 6 slots, because if I have more Balisongs than that, I have a problem. And then I started a YouTube channel about Balisongs. And so I still definitely have a problem, but at least I have an excuse for that problem now. So thank you all for giving me that excuse so I can tell my brain that it's okay, and my husband. Because at the end of the day, I definitely have too many of these, but that's part of the hobby. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you maybe gleaned something from this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on expensive versus cheap balisongs down below. You know, if money was no object to you, I'm interested to know, what would you buy? You know, obviously I got myself a Proflipper, but what kind of balisong would be your grail that you're looking for? So let me know, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace out.